in this class?
The instance variable, can you say, sir?
Sorry?
Instance variable, local variable.
Instance
How,
variables and local variables.
how can we identify static variable?
How can we identify static variables? Okay. 1 second. Okay, let's try to talk about instance variables and static variables. Okay, let's try to get into that. Okay, so for understanding static variables, we need to understand what is the meaning of static. Okay, we need to understand what is the meaning of static. So do we know what is the meaning of static? The static keyword? Anyone? Okay, let me help you with static keyword. Can you see my screen? I'm sharing an IntelliJ IDEA window.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I've created a new file called as a demo class. Okay, now inside I'll write class test. Okay, and I write public, or let's say private string, or let me make it public only, public string name. Okay, and then I write a function. Okay, simple function, a function that just fetches the name of the name in the test class, correct? So now if I create a main function over here, and if I write test t is equals to new test, and I write t dot name is equals to Shantanu, which is my name. And if I write system.out.println t dot get name, and if I run it, then I will see Shantanu getting printed, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Now, can you tell me this, that can I access the name variable and the get name function without creating an object of test?
No.
Why? That is correct, but why? The reason is the members of the class are bound to the object of that class. Correct? So I cannot write name or get name without creating the object of the class. Correct? So all the members of the class are associated with the object. But whenever we want a situation where a member of the class must not be associated with the object of that class, then that member needs to become static. For example, if I write one more function, public static void welcome message. And I can write this by writing test.message. So you can see that the welcome message function was accessed even without creating the object of test. Do you see it?
Yeah.
The welcome message function was accessed even without creating the object of test. Why? Because it is marked as static. If I make it non-static, then you will see this will become an error. Okay, so whenever you have to access a static member, you must write the name of the class dot the name of the static member.
Okay.
Clear? So this is how you identify a instance type or a static type. If it's class name dot member name, then it is static. If not, then it is normal, non-static. Okay. Now let's say inside the welcome message, I print welcome home. And then I write plus name. Then you see that the name is red in color. But here it is absolutely okay.
Non-static.
Yes. So it is not possible to use a non-static member inside a static member. But vice versa is true. You can use static inside non-static, but you cannot use non-static inside static because of how memory is handled for static and non-static members. Clear? So that is how it works. Anything else you want me to talk about? Exception handling, maybe?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's try to understand what is exception handling. So exception handling is a very interesting way where you have to solve the problems that your code falls into. So for example, let's say you are going to a long drive, you're going for a long drive, and suddenly your car gets a flat tire, or in India, as we say, puncture. So what would you do? You would most probably take the stepney out of your car's boot or dicky and then use it to take the flat tire out and then set up a new tire and then continue with your drive, correct?
Yeah.
Continue with your drive. So technically, a flat tire or a puncture was a problem that came at the time of you driving the car. So when this problem occurred, you knew what to do to solve this problem so that your overall output does not get impacted. Correct? So exception handling inside Java or any other programming language for that matter is a technique in which you solve the problems that can be solved. Now, problems are of two types. One is a type of problem that you can solve, and the other is a type of problem that you cannot solve. For example, if earthquake comes, no matter how much you want, you cannot stop the earth from shaking. Correct?
Yeah.
Right? It's a problem that you cannot solve. But a problem as simple as you getting a puncture or a flat tire, you can solve that problem. So whenever a problem that cannot be solved, it is called as error in Java world. And if there's a problem that can be solved, it is called as exception in Java world. Okay. And the idea of handling these problems that can be solved is called as exception handling. Okay. Do we understand what is the meaning of exception handling?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for the timing, I'll clear this. I don't need it anymore. And I'll show you some piece of code. Suppose you're writing a function, public static int divide two numbers. Now, if you write what should be the output?
Errors.
Error, right?
Yes, sir.
If I run this, it will tell you exception in thread, and it will tell you that java.lang arithmetic exception saying divide by 0. So it is saying that in demo file dot main function, which is line number 4, the exception is coming at line number 4. And then it has so originally the exception came at the top line, which is at line number 8. And then this was observed in line number 4, and then it was thrown. That is what happened. So exception is a problem that can be handled. So as you can see that there can be a problem of the value of the denominator becoming 0. Therefore, Java has thrown you an exception called as arithmetic exception, which is trying to tell you the problem that it cannot divide by 0. Okay, so this is what is exception that we are seeing on our screen right now. Okay, so an exception is a problem. For example, I'll give you one more example. Let's say if I write an array of size 10, and if I write, what will be the output? Hmm? What will be the output of this? If I run this, you will see another exception called as array index out of bound exception. So it cannot access a 10th index because a 10th index does not exist, therefore giving us an error or exception in this case. So when a situation like this happens, we need to handle the exception. So in order to handle the exception, we write the syntax like this. We always start with a try block, try, inside which we write the code that can throw an exception. And then we write a catch block where we write exception E, and then we just tell what should happen when the problem has come. Let's say exception, something like this. So now if I run it, it says exception occurred. This is how exception handling works in Java. So there can be different types of exceptions: compile time exception, runtime exception. Depending on the kind of situation, your exception category will be decided, whether it's compile time exception or runtime exception. If we have to talk more about it, maybe we can talk about the throw keyword or throws keyword, but it will take more than the time that we already have to discuss about these things without leaving any doubts behind. Okay. How about we keep it in a way that you can ask me more questions around Java and I can help you answer them. So anyone, any questions? Sampath, Anjali, Raj, Dikpal. Okay, let's go ahead with exception handling in that case. So in exception handling, if we have to decide even further, so there is a class called as a throwable class. If you know about inheritance, you should be able to understand it. Let's say nodes. So there is a class called as throwable. Okay, this class has two children. One is called as X error and the other is called as exception. Okay, one is called as error and the other is called as exception. Now, exception also has many children, and one of them is runtime exception. Okay, so this is how it works. So there's a class called as throwable that has two children, error and exception. Exception also has many children like IO exception, uh, then SQL exception. Okay, IO exception also has one child, which is file not found exception. Okay, so these are some sort of the hierarchy. Now in runtime exception also there are multiple children. For example, null pointer exception. Arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Then there can be array index out of bounds exception. Then there can be what else? No such, no, I think it's fine. Yeah, this much is fine, and many others. Many others. Okay, so there are many types of exceptions that are occurring. So if there is any exception that is a child of runtime exception, then that exception will always occur at the runtime. Otherwise, all other exceptions will be occurring at compile time. Okay, so this is how the exception hierarchy goes. So if you write exception over here, because it is a parent of all the types of exceptions, then no matter what kind of exception is occurring, that will be handled in this catch block. If you specifically want to handle a type of exception, then you must write that type of exception over here and then write the logic of how to handle this specific type of exception. Okay, this is how things work inside Java. Okay, so you can also create your own customized exceptions. And you can use these customized exceptions as a runtime exception or a compile time exception, depending on the use case. Depending on the use case. Okay, is it clear so far what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, anybody any questions? Okay, all right. So depending on the type of exception you want to handle, you might want to use the name of the exception over here. Okay, now let's try to
Sir, I
understand.
have a question.
Yes, tell me, Raj.
Sir, why we create object?
Why we create object in
Yes,
general?
sir.
I
Yes, sir.
mean, your question is not related to exception handling, right? In general, you're
Yes,
asking.
sir.
Okay, so you think about it like this, Raj. Like I would request you to be kindly unmuted if possible, so that I can talk to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you think about like this. Let's say you are an architect. You are an
Okay.
architect. Okay, you are an architect, and you are asked to design a building. Okay. So people have told you that we want, let's say, 50 floors, etc., etc., etc. We want it to be office, everything that you are aware. So what you did is that you have taken all the feedback, all the inputs, and now you are designing the building on a sheet of paper.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you have created a blueprint of that building.
Yeah.
And the blueprint is very good. Okay. So let's say you have a blueprint in your hand. So, are there any buildings made from this blueprint so far? No, right? You just have a blueprint. Okay, but if you make a building out of this blueprint, then you can say that the blueprint has some sort of meaning or some sort of purpose because we actually created one building out of this blueprint.
Yes,
And
sir.
using the same blueprint, you can create multiple other buildings ditto same to
Buildings.
same, right? So this
Right.
is what an object is. So your blueprint is like a class, and what you create using that blueprint is an object. So whatever your blueprint is, it only comes to existence when there is an object created out of it. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So
Got it.
let's say your first building is blue in color. Your second building can be the same, but it can be red in color. Something like that.
Sir, then why we use non-static methods? Like when we use non-static methods, then we don't need to create any object for that.
No, you are saying exactly opposite. When we use non-static methods,
Sorry,
then we
sir.
have to create
Yes, sir.
objects.
Yes,
So
sir.
when we use static methods, when we don't have to create objects. So the reason for static is sometimes different. Maybe we don't want to create objects in some situations so that we can access them without creating an object. So that is situational.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. So this is about exception handling inside Java. So I was telling you that there are two types of exceptions. If any exception is a descendant of runtime exception, then it will be a runtime exception. Otherwise, by default, all exceptions are compile time exceptions. Okay, you can also create an exception of your own by creating a class that extends either the runtime exception class or the exception class. If your exception extends the runtime exception class, then it will be a runtime exception. Otherwise, it will be a compile time exception. Okay, so if let's say if I come to this place and if I want to throw an error or if I want to throw an exception by my own, I can do that as well. For example, if I say that if b is equal to 0, then throw an exception. Let's say throw null point exception. So if that happens, then I can accept a null point exception over here and check if it is working absolutely fine or not. For example, I can write int answer is equals to divide two numbers, say 10 comma 0. And because this condition will become true, it will throw a null pointer exception. You can see it throws a null pointer exception. However, if I write arithmetic exception, it does not recognize it anymore. So now I want to show you the throw keyword. So when we want to throw an exception by ourselves, at that time we make use of a throw keyword. And after the throw keyword, we make sure that we pass a exception variable. Because in this case, we don't have an exception variable. So we have created it right here, and then we are throwing that exception variable. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similarly, there is another type of exception called as compile time exception, which introduces us to a new keyword called as throws keyword. THROWS throws keyword. So if instead of throwing a null pointer exception, if I happen to throw an exception, a regular exception, then you can see a red color line is coming. Okay, so because exception is a compile time exception, it is handled differently. So whenever a function can throw a compile time exception at that time, either that function must handle that exception there and there itself, or the function must do something else. So it's like in this case, you can see that I am handling the exception here only. Right? So like I told you that this function can throw exception because I have only written the throw new exception line. Because it can throw exception, I need to make sure that I have to handle it over here only. I don't have a choice of not handling it over here. If I choose to not handle it over here, then I must delegate this problem to the function that is making use of this function by using the throws keyword. So what does it mean? It means that whenever somebody is trying to use the divide two numbers function, they have to handle an exception. Okay, so on the same sidelines, you can see that the divide two numbers now here is red. And if I make this exception, then it will absolutely be fine because now I'm handling the exception that this can potentially throw. Clear? Is it clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Any questions, anyone? Okay. So this is what exception handling looks like. Okay. Are you guys aware of interfaces? Interface. Do you guys know interface?
Sir, interface is used to achieve multiple inheritance and for total abstraction.
Who told you that it is used to achieve multiple inheritance?
Sir, I read it.
No, so multiple inheritance is not possible in Java, and interfaces cannot do multiple inheritance. However, it may look like they're doing multiple inheritance. Some things are similar to multiple inheritance, but it is not possible to do multiple inheritance in Java. Interfaces are not used for inheritance at all. However, the concept is
Okay.
similar to inheritance, but not inheritance. Okay. I'll show you something very interesting. So I'll create a class and let's call it my interface. My interface. Okay. And here I will write a void function. Okay. So it is an interface which has nothing but a function called as print something. Okay. Now, in order to make use of this interface, what will I have to do? I will have to create a class, let's say class, uh, let's say man implements my interface. And therefore, I will have to write the function. Right? So this is what I had to write. And now in order to use it, I'll have to write man m is equals to new man. And then I can write m dot print something. So it will print what? It will print man. Correct? Are you able to understand what I've written so far? If you know interfaces, it should not be a problem. Is it clear what I've written so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now focus on this. So my interface only has one function, right? It only has one function. So on the basis of this, I can write something very interesting. Maybe something like this. So I can write my interface M is equal to a bracket, and then I can write M dot print something, and it will do exactly the same thing. See? Did you guys understand what this is? Very weird looking syntax. This is called as a lambda function,
Yes.
right? So you can create a lambda function in Java only with the help of interface and only with the help of something called as a functional interface. A functional interface is that interface that only has one abstract function. Like in this case, print something. Because it only has one abstract function, we can make use of that function as a functional interface. So now I don't have to create a class, implement that interface in that class, and then create an object of that class in order to make use of the function. I have avoided everything, and now I can inline do all of those things in just one place. So this is an advantage of using functional interface. Is it clear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is what a lambda functions are going to be like in Java. Okay. I don't think we have any more topics left. If you want me to talk about something, I can. Otherwise, I think I'm good to close the class.
One more example.
Okay. So using the same interface or other, let me create a different one. Suppose I've created an interface called as engine. An engine has a function called as start. Okay. An engine has a function called as start. Now I can go here and I can create engine, electric engine. So if I run this, it will give me starting electric engine. But now let's say I want a diesel engine. So now I don't have to create separate classes and then implement the engine interface on top of it in order to run the start function. I can do it all inline. Clear? Is it clear?
Sir, can a class implement two interfaces?
Yes, they can.
So then what we call it?
It is not multiple inheritance. It is multiple implementation of interfaces on a class.
Okay, sir.
It is not multiple inheritance. Inheritance will always involve classes. When it is interfaces, it is not inheritance. It is abstraction.
Okay, sir.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Sir, can you tell me about the constructor chaining something?
Constructor chaining means if you're trying to use a constructor inside another constructor for the same class, that is called as constructor chaining. For example, let me create a new class.
There are two class now. When I want to know when super keyword and this keyword in constructor chaining, like that concept. Sometimes
I'll,
I
I'll, I'll tell you. Suppose there's a class called as fruit. There's a class called as fruit. Okay. And then there's a constructor string name whose job is to print the name. Then there's one more fruit, string name and string color, whose job is to print name and color. Okay. So this class fruit has two constructors. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, don't you think this part is common in both of them?
Yes.
This part is common in both of them, right? So in order to do this a constructor chaining way, I can just write. This is one example of constructor chaining. So here I'm using this constructor inside this constructor.
So if
Therefore,
I have
call as
a parent class, like there are one parent class and child class and inner child class. So when we use the super keyword in parent class and this keyword in child class, so can you tell me both when they are working like together?
Tell me one more time.
Like the super keyword and this keyword we are using. Super keyword is for the parent class constructor calling. So can you tell me like for both like when they like together working in constructor chaining?
No, in constructor chaining that is not possible because you have to, you must always write the super keyword first in a constructor with a child class. Okay. So you must always write the super keyword as the first line inside the constructor of a child class. That is mandatory. If you're using super, then it has to be the first line. And therefore it cannot be like you cannot use this keyword you can use, but but constructor chaining in the using this class you cannot use.
Okay, like for parent class, there may be combination super and this keyword, but in child class, there are no combination of super keyword and this keyword,
Yeah,
right?
this will no combinations can exist, but it will not allow you to use as constructor chaining. For
Okay.
example, if I write a function, so now you have a super as well as a this.
So when the compiler will come, so it will go to the first of the parent class, like a super keyword will be called first, right? Okay.
Any more questions? So yeah, any more questions?
Oh, can you tell me the concept of static class, like static class and inner class, like when we use
So
that concept?
static class is you can only use a static keyword when you're inside a class. So when you want to nest a class, you might want to make it static if you want to use it without creating the object of that class. We in real world situations, we don't make use of static classes. We must not make a class static. However, Java allows that, but we should not do that.
Can you tell me the like term, like that term, the static means like overall, what is that mean? What does it mean?
Static means will be instantiated in the memory the moment your program runs. That is the meaning of static. So it will not wait for any object creation or anything like that. It means that the moment your class will run, your program will run, all the things that are decorated with the word static will run and immediately be present in the memory.
So we can call it directly without needing object, without using
Yes,
object.
yes, that is correct. For example, if I look at this file, you can see that I am calling the add numbers function without creating an object of the main class because it is static. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Difference between abstract class and interface, and when we choose which one over the other. If possible, always try to choose interface over abstract class. But if your situation is such that you want a combination of virtual and non-virtual methods, or combination of virtual or non-virtual, combination of abstract and non-abstract members, then you must use abstract class. In interface, all members are abstract, but in abstract class, you have an option of making something abstract or non-abstract. That is optional. Any more questions? Maybe I can take 2 more before I hit a hard stop.
What is a lambda expression?
A lambda expression is basically a function, which is basically a function, which is connected with a functional interface. And now, what is an interface? Function interface, an interface that has only one abstract function that is called as function interface. So a lambda function is a way to represent a value for this abstract function without making the need of creating a class that implements that interface. So this is what a lambda function is. It is very much like a function that takes no arguments, and this is the function body. Please don't write on my screen. Any more questions?
Lambda function, we can write conditions.
What kind of conditions you want? Okay, I'll
Like
show you. Suppose it takes a number. Let's say test. Some number. It has taken one argument. Dikpal, I had to mute you because of background noise. Sorry about that. So now if I say int a, and if I want a condition, I can write if a is less than 0, a is negative. Otherwise, everything is fine. Otherwise, so now I can just write m dot test 5, and it will just print 5. But if I write -10, it will print a is negative. So you can see I have given conditions also. Clear? All right, on this note, I'll take a hard stop here. And yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope that I was able to solve your doubts and your questions that were arising in your head. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.